Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
In the middle of multi-million-dollar condos in Chicago's North Side, there's a war raging that has claimed nearly 20 lives in the last 10 years. This destructive feud has claimed lives in crazy ways, like one particular murder in 2018, but more on that later in the video. Many people might not know this, but Polo G reps a gang called 1300. Their beef with OTE is one of the oldest in the city. So old, in fact, the current active members don't even know how it began, which is wild. The two gangs occupy two infamous projects, which because of gentrification are surrounded by some of the most expensive property in Chicago. Cabrini Greens is home to OTE, while 1300 reside in the Marshall Field Gardens. Cabrini Greens is one of the oldest and most dangerous hoods in Chicago. The original high-rise red brick buildings were built all the way back in the 50s. Polo G in Finer Things references how long the two gangs have been at war by saying they've basically been into it since those apartments were built.
For generations, bitch, my side of town been drilling. We've been at war ever since the red buildings.
Before O Block, Cabrini Greens was definitely the most famous block in the Windy City, with multiple documentaries being made about it. Residents in the 90s described snipers placed on rooftops, and shootings were a daily occurrence. Most of the original buildings were knocked down in the early 2000s to try to lower the violence there. But what remains is still a breeding ground for gangster disciples that rep the set, OTE, or Only the End. 1300's territory, and where Polo grew up, is Marshall Field Gardens, another project that is only 5 minutes away from Cabrini Greens. For this video, I'll only be looking at murders that took place in the last 10 years. This is because it's nearly impossible to accurately discuss deaths from 25 years ago. Now it's time to get into the first murder. The first death in the more recent part of the feud is that of Thana from 1300 in 2013. Thana was walking just down the road from Marshall Field Apartments with his friend to get diapers for his son. Sadly, he was spotted by OTE members. They began firing at Thana, and he was struck multiple times. His friend was hit once in the head and miraculously survived, but Thana wasn't so lucky. It wouldn't take long for 1300 to get their get back. A couple months after Thana's death, 50 from OTE was killed. It's rumored 50 and a 1300 member were messing with the same girl. Allegedly, this is what led to his death. At 4 a.m., 50 was out in Cabrini Greens when someone from 1300 walked up on him. The 1300 member then opened fire, killing 50 and wounding a friend that was with him. TimTim or Gucci was a very popular member of 1300. He was actually a very gifted gymnast and a member of the Jesse White Tumblers. In 2014, TimTim allegedly caught and beat up an OTE member named Q Ball. Not long after TimTim was walking down the street in 1300 territory when Q Ball began following him on a bike. When he got up close, Q Ball shot and killed TimTim. This was a very big loss for 1300 as he was so well liked. After his death, 1300 began going by TimTim Gang. He was also Polo G's best friend, and the G in Polo's name also stands for Gucci.
Love Polo coming up. Always used to tell my mama go grab that, and then the G, the G stand for Gucci. That's for my friend who passed away.
Oh, that's cold. Nah.
Because TimTim was such a popular member of 1300, he gets dissed more than any other member of the gang.
Get tragic, TimTim try out for just white from the red up on bikes when his ass do a backflip. Y'all crank cars.
Still smoking Thrax, see Gucci pack. He was a goof for flipping on match. Ayy, was cold or something. Smoking see Gucci La Soul or something. I beat a nigga ass like he stole something from me.
Unless I'm finna blast it, claim up that Gucci, hit it twice, and then I pass it.
If you're enjoying the video so far, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss my next videos. I'm going crazy in 2024, trying to make as many videos as possible. So if you're watching and you're not subscribed, sub right now. It's free and you can always unsubscribe whenever you want. Killa was a big member of 1300. At 3:15 a.m., Killa was driving on the 400 block of West Evergreen Avenue. Suddenly, he began to get shot at by OTE affiliates in a nearby car. Killa was hit multiple times and crashed his car. He was sadly pronounced dead in Northwestern Memorial Hospital. 3 OTE affiliates ended up getting charged with the murder. 1,300 began calling themselves Killa Mob after his death.
I'm from Evergreen, where hustlers post on corners like a sign. Kill a mob full of shooters, nigga, we ain't dropping dimes.
3 friends of an older 1,300 member were sitting in a car outside Mr. Gyros restaurant on 109 West Division Street. As they were talking, they were approached by Trap from OTE with 5 other guys. Trap and his friends walked up and tried to rob them. The 1,300 member was in the restaurant, but when he saw what was happening, came rushing out. He confronted the robbers before he reached into the car's glove compartment and pulled out a handgun. He then opened fire on the robbers, killing Trap. Edward and Edwin Bryan were a set of twins and members of 1,300. The pair went by Ed and Lil Bit. They were very well liked by the younger generation of the gang. In the early hours of October 30th, the twins were walking along 1,300's block. Unfortunately, that night, OTE members were out looking for 1,300 members. A dark vehicle came speeding up, and someone inside began shooting. Both twins were struck and killed. This murder is particularly tragic because Ed was an incredibly gifted basketball player. Polo G said the hood thought he was going to make it to the NBA. Polo G also often references the twins in songs.
Too fast, I ain't had time to heal. Ed was gonna make it on that court, but he died in the field.
Homie made the news, he supposed to be on ESPN. Came and left the same day, RIP to the twins. Doctors said know how my brothers was coming. Ball like I'm Ed and I'm shooting like Lil Bit, and I'm just gonna do it like dirt when I'm stunned.
Ed, an OTE member, was driving in Chicago when he got spotted by some 1,300 members. The 1,300 guys began following him in their car. Ed pulled to a stop at red lights, and 1,300 members in a sedan pulled in behind him. One of the guys in the sedan hopped out, walked up to Ed's SUV, and shot him in the head through the window.
Yeah, but he was shooting back, he checked from off a leg shot. But I know on we seen in traffic called a headshot. Know a nigga.
Now, the murder of ODogg from OTE is the insane murder I was referencing at the start of the video. There are very few details on this case, but in 2018, ODogg left his house at 10 p.m. Not long after, the 18-year-old got kidnapped and killed by 1,300 members. His body was never found. Just before 6 a.m. near the Shell station on the 1600 block of North Sedgwick, Tay & Co., 2 1,300 members were driving in a red Buick. OTE members spotted them and drove up beside them in an SUV. While the 2 cars were driving, an OTE member opened fire on the Buick. Both Tay and Co. were shot before their car crashed. The 2 men were sadly pronounced dead. Lil Pooda was a 15-year-old 1,300 member. Pooda, along with a 16-year-old friend, were walking through an alley off West Superior Street just after COVID restrictions were lifted. The pair suddenly began to get shot at by an OTE member. They were both hit, and sadly, Lil Pooda died. 2021 was an extremely bloody year for the feud, mainly because of the murder of Bmoney. Bmoney was Polo G's best friend. He spent most of his time out of Chicago with Polo. But in August 2021, he came back to 1,300's block to celebrate his own and TimTim's birthday with the guys. In the middle of the day, he was sitting on a porch on the 3,500 block of West 5th Avenue. Unfortunately, OTE guys got the drop on him. They drove to his location, hopped out, and began shooting. Bmoney immediately started shooting back. He was hit in the leg, and his attackers began to flee. This leg shot would end up killing Bmoney just 2 days after his 20th birthday. Because Bmoney was another very popular guy on the block, get back for him would be quick.
Facing with no mask. Bmoney died, but he was shooting back, he checked from off a leg shot. But
After Bmoney died, 1,300 were looking for revenge. Spazz, an affiliate of OTE, had been dissing Bmoney crazy. Only hours after his death, he hit the studio and recorded a song dissing him.
Shoot this motherfucking 50, Bmoney with God, 1,300 gray yard.
4 days after Bmoney's death, Spazz was driving when a car full of 1,300 members pulled up beside him. Some of the 1,300 guys then began shooting, killing Spazz. As you can imagine, 1,300 went crazy with the dissing after Spazz died. Kappa was more get back for Bmoney. She was a 16-year-old OTE member. In October of 2021, she was out partying. Sadly, someone dropped her location to 1,300 members. They went to the location and waited for her to come out. Once she got in the car she was traveling in, the 1,300 members boxed her car in and killed her. OTE got back only 2 weeks later, though. Turtle, an older 1,300 member with 3 kids, got set up by OTE. Turtle thought he was meeting a girl, but instead, OTE guys were waiting for him. They began to shoot him, and Turtle ran. But he was struck. Once he hit the floor, they ran up after him and shot him in the face. Sav, an OTE member, was sliding on 1300's block. Someone told the police he had upped a gun on them, and so the police tracked him down. They pursued him on foot while trying to tase him. In police footage, Sav can be seen jogging away. It's unclear in the footage, but according to CPD, Sav then fired at them before they shot and killed him. 1300 got the drop on where Turbo, an OTE member, worked. As he clocked out, a car full of 1300 members were waiting. 3 of them, including a dude named FatFat, hopped out and began shooting Turbo. Turbo shot back, but was hit and killed. Crazily, Turbo's shots hit FatFat. FatFat was able to get back in the car, and the 1300 guys drove him to the hospital. Sadly, he died there too. This double homicide is the last death in the feud to date. It's sad to see all this poverty-based death when these hoods are surrounded by such riches. Riches that could help these guys further their education and lives, lifting them out of this cycle of violence. Rest in peace to everyone mentioned who has died. As always, there are no winners in these feuds. Thanks for watching to the end. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss my next video.